New at 6, 23andme says a data breach affected personal information for many of its users. You're probably familiar with a company that helps people track their ancestry.
The report says hackers were able to access data from 6.9 million users, including family tree information and potential relatives who have genetic matches.
The report says 23andme is still in the process of notifying everyone affected by the breach and urges all of its users to update their passwords.
Queen City News Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes joins us now. And Khalif, what legal ramifications could the company face here?
Significant. I mean, in that last portion that Brian said is probably the easiest thing to start with when they say they recommend everyone update their password, because that's what 23andme said was part of the problem, that folks used their password not just on their site, but they had already used on other sites. And I think everybody does that. If you already have a password you like and it's something that, you know, feels
easy
good.
To remember.
Yeah.
Easy to remember. Yeah. I'll use it in every place. Well, it's not good if your information gets hacked. And that's what happened here. And so 23andme leaned on that. The lawsuit says, well, I'm glad that you tried to place blame on the users and you took a little bit of blame on the hackers. But what about you? They said that you were negligent for failing to implement reasonable and appropriate safeguards to protect information, and that you allowed multiple intrusions without notifying any of the users. And so you knew that this was happening. It took you a long time to figure out. And then at some point, you didn't let folks know that this was happening in the background. And now that you've let them know, you're negligent for that. So the safeguards that you should have put in place, you didn't, and now you need to be held accountable.
So now we got this predicament here, Crisis Management 101. What do we do? What's the next steps here for 23andme?
I mean, the next step is that you want to instill trust that, okay, you can go to this site, because remember, you're trying to piece together your genealogy. You're trying to figure out your relatives, to track folks. I mean, some people had thousands of people connected, and it was, you know, if you opted into this special feature that allowed you to connect to other people. So if you're utilizing this special feature and you want to sell folks on it, you got to have the protections behind it. And so first, reinstilling trust in that your process works. And that's what they said in their press release, that, yeah, our safeguards are there, our process is fine, there's nothing wrong with the system. Only 0.1% of people that use our site have been affected. So they're saying all the right things. That meant 99% of the other folks weren't affected. But there's hackers out there that are saying, no, we got access to 300 terabytes of data. So we've only let the tip of the iceberg. We got a lot more data out there, and they're asking for $50 million. So 23andme will have to deal with the public portion, but also the behind the scenes, because these hackers can kind of hold you at ransom.
Well, and this is such a feeling of being violated, right? This is all your information. How can people trust a company like this? What kind of precedent does this set?
It sets a big precedent. I know any of the other companies that are out there, the Ancestry.com, they're probably watching and ensure that they don't have something similar to this happen to them. But anytime you're adding your personal information onto a website like that, it could be subject to getting hacked. And so this is probably the most intimate, because you're giving your address, you're giving your location, where you were born, all the things that you really don't want anybody else to have access to. But for it to work, you have to provide that information. So it has to be a balance. But they'll have to do a full court press and show in terms of showing and sowing trust back in their system. On the legal side, I think this claim settles at some point. It will it's a class action suit, and so they'll go through the class certification process. That's ensuring that folks are able to join and they're likely situated. But once it gets down the road, this doesn't go to trial, because they want to show that they support the folks that use it. And the only way you can do that is not try to fight them in court and act like you didn't do something wrong, because something clearly was wrong. People's personal information was giving access to.
Change your password. All right.
Multiple times.
Often.
Often.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Khalif.
Well,